What's going on, people? This is where you want to be. Welcome to Spiritual Needs TV. Welcome back to another episode of Life Theories, episode 2, series 1. And in this series, we've got a guest for you. Her name is Laura Stanley. She's been researching for the past 10 years, or maybe even longer than that, about the agenda that is happening in front of our eyes. Now, if coronavirus wasn't enough to be scared of, we now have 2 new variants that have come in from Israel and France. One's called Florona, and the other one's called I Hate You. I don't know. These fucking people come up with these names, man. They're psychopaths. Anyway, in this series, we're going to be talking about our beliefs and our theories about the old pokeroo. And we're going to be sharing with you our knowledge and our research. And we're going to put references in there so you could go and look it up yourself, so we're not labelled as conspiracy theorists. Fucking hate that term. I love every single one of you. Thank you for coming to join me today. I've missed you. We're back now. 2022 is our year. We're going to win this battle between light and dark. Remember, hit that subscribe button and that like button. It helps with the algorithm and it helps share my content with you so it reaches a larger audience so we can get this shit out there. I love you all. Stay blessed. Namaste.
I don't feel confident of the safety and efficacy that's being advertised. And I also have discovered that while there have been adverse reactions, there's also reports of those that have gotten protected are actually shedding some of the medicine that they've received, and it's causing health issues for people that are both protected and unprotected.
Yeah, I was researching about shedding not too long ago, and it's a real thing, and I think a lot of people need to look more into that because they don't realize that even if you don't get this pokeroo, you still have to be careful about the people you're around, because maybe the people that have it may be shedding.
Yes, I know that I recently watched a documentary that has been put together where one of the doctors, and I'll get his name here, it's Dr. Malone, that he participated in the documentary. His name is Dr. Robert Malone. And he is part of the people that invented the mRNA medicine.
Yes.
Okay. And he knows that it can take up to 10 years of unbiased study to approve the safety of any new medicine. This is actually gene therapy.
Exactly
the
that.
mRNA is gene therapy.
Exactly that.
It's when they made protections such as smallpox when we were children, or the measles, mumps, and rubella. Those were actually introducing a small amount of the actual illness into your system to allow the natural process of what your body is built with to build its own immunity. What they've done with this is they've tried to make a gene therapy that alters your genes in ways that they have not taken the time to thoroughly examine those effects. And they want to use all of us as lab rats. And I'm not down with that, brother. I am not down with that. Like I said, I'm not down with that. I'm not about to take something that they haven't thoroughly tested by unbiased testing. The only testing that's been done on this has been paid for by the companies that are producing the medicine. So there's been no double-blind studies. There's been no independent studies.
Mm-hmm.
It's all, hey, I want this pushed through because I need to make money.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't it take normally 5 to 10 years for them to safely create a vaccine and do all the safety checks, and do you know what I mean? So, and they've done that in less than, what was it? Less than a year.
That's not me saying 5 to 10 years. That's not you saying 5 to 10 years. That's doctors.
That's them. That's from the horse's mouth.
The doctors that have been in on this research, that have pioneered this research, are saying 5 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
The whole documentary that I watched was scientists and doctors being interviewed that are leaders in their fields.
Mm-hmm.
Not, just country doctors. They're people that they've worked with CDC, they've worked with FDA. Well, I'm talking about people like Robert F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. That man's name is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in government for many, many years.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
His generations in that family.
100%. Woo! We got Sarah back.
Hey, Sarah.
I figured it out.
Figured it out.
I had to go steal the Wi-Fi extender from my roommate's room and do a whole bunch of stuff. So
back, I think we owe her thanks.
I think we're good now, so I can finally hear and see all your pretty faces.
Well, you're beautiful too. Well, we were just talking about. I would let Laura explain what we were just talking about.
The way the government is going about their pressure and trying to tell us how to deal with our own health issues.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just signed a petition or a letter to send to Congress, our congressman here in California. They're trying to pass where the government has the right to peek into all of your medical records.
Yeah.
And produce a digital passport for everyone in this country. And to me, that says, I want to know all your business and I want to tell you how to live. And that's not what we're paying these people to do.
No, and doctors also take an oath to protect your information, and doing that and allowing the government and anyone in a government facility to now be able to access your records if they want to, that's a direct violation of the doctor's oath of sharing information. I don't understand how they think that's going to go.
Well, they also take an oath to do no harm. I think that's the first thing that comes up in their oath, to do no harm and to not research what you are actually putting into your patient is negligence, and that is a breach of an oath. So they're doing it. They're breaching oaths all over the place, guys.
Right?
Don't I know it?
It's not fun with no grease. I'm telling you, it's just not good.
Well, in Canada, sorry to cut you, Laura. In Canada, they have what they got going on in Canada now. They got COVID pass.
It's passports.
That's
it. Your vaccine passport. So you're not allowed to go into any what they're calling non-essential businesses unless you're vaccinated. So basically, I'm not allowed to go anywhere except for like grocery stores and like big box stores and like basically anything that's like a big box, like Walmart, Best Buy, like those sort of like stores in general, and grocery stores. That's my life now. That's where I'm allowed to go.
That's where you party.
And yeah, anywhere else I'm not allowed to enter without being subject to opening up my medical records. And yeah, everybody has to shell out your medical records if you want to go for dinner with a friend now. I couldn't even go. Like, I have a really close friend of mine. He suffers from schizophrenia, and it's really important to me to spend time with him, especially on his birthday. And I just had to miss his birthday because we usually go for a nice dinner together, and I couldn't do that this year. So
It's heartbreaking.
It's really upsetting.
Sorry, Laura, before I cut you there, you can continue now, Laura. Sorry about that.
I made some mistakes in my health years ago. I smoked cigarettes for 35 years. I quit over 13 years ago now. And I've been practicing natural health. And I've had jobs where I was exposed to all kinds of things. My job used to be working as a receptionist in a homeless shelter. Everybody that lived on the street that needed help came into my office. Mm-hmm. So I was exposed to all different kinds of illnesses and bugs and whatnot. And all those years, I never got the flu, and I never had to take any kind of a flu shot. I didn't believe in them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the thing is that I was on a COPD or emphysema. Mm-hmm. I've been diagnosed with that. And I've been told that one of the effects of taking the new medicine can be serious implications in your lungs. And mm-hmm. then if you do still get the illness and you go into the hospital, they have protocols where they're only allowed to use one drug. And I'll look that up. Oh, I'm serious. I took some heavy notes. I'm not gonna lie.
Good on you.
And you know, even my friends think I'm freaking getting into this too much.
Good.
I'll tell you right now.
This is what this channel is for. This channel is not to beat around the bush about anything, and these episodes are not going to be for everyone. You see, this is going to be stuff that is going to be hard to digest, and people may be hearing this stuff for the first time, but this is what needs to be done right about now, because we cannot no longer sit back and just allow them to strip away our rights and our freedoms from us. Sorry, Laura, go ahead.
His name is Dr. Brian Ardis. Mm-hmm. And his last name is spelled Ardis. And he's got, he's a CEO of Ardis Labs, ARDISLABS.com. He lost his father-in-law because of their protocols in the hospital, which they only use one drug. They wouldn't take him off of that drug and help him with other treatments. Mm-hmm. And
was did the family
even though family was insisting, his daughter and other family were insisting and telling the doctors they are medical professionals in this family. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They were telling the doctors they wanted him to be treated their way. And when they backed off and started taking care of him with the family's wishes, he started getting better. Yeah. But then some bigwig in the hospital said, no, you're going to do it this way because this is what our hospital protocol is. Mm-hmm.
That similar thing happened to me with the antibiotics. They just refused to take me off my antibiotic treatment because that was protocol for someone who had sepsis as bad as me. I kept telling them, this is damaging me. I really feel super sick. I know my body really well. This isn't good. Take me off. No, protocol. You take off it or take it out now. You could end up back here with infection because your infection might not be fully gone and we have to keep you on. I was like, I really don't think this is right. And that's when I ended up with an immune system like as the end of life AIDS patient, because they overdosed me on the antibiotics.
Why don't you give Laura a little bit of background about yourself, Sarah?
Yeah, I could do that. So Cortez and I were talking last time about when I was 9 months old, I got the MMR poke and the trying to watch my words here.
Pokeroo.
The pokeroo. So I got my pokeroo for measles, mumps, rubella, and within less than a week, 24 hours, I believe my mom said, I started swelling up every joint of my body. My whole body was completely hot to the touch, super swollen, covered in a rash. And from that point on, I've never been the same. At I think it was roughly 18 months old, they finally diagnosed me with severe rheumatoid arthritis in every joint of my body. And basically,
She even has it in her throat.
Yeah, the microscopic voice box the microscopic joint in your voice box, it's the smallest joint you have in the human body. I have arthritis in that too, hence the raspiness in my voice. But yeah, so ever since then, they've been putting me on so many medications. My whole childhood, I was basically used as a lab rat for arthritis medications because nobody had seen a case as bad as mine. So they used me to their best of their abilities to get the knowledge they needed to get. But in doing that, that damaged me, and I kept having to go from medication to medication to medication, being hospitalized from side effects. Really, really scary, horrible side effects too. At 4 years old, I had Stevens-Johnson, which is a disease where your skin literally peels off in large sections, layer by layer. And that was happening all over my body at 4 years old. I believe I almost died from that as well. I'd have to ask my mom about that too. I was in the hospital for quite a long time after that one. I've had everything from that to severe hallucinations to stomach and skin issues, vision issues, hair falling out. Everything you can imagine, every side effect you can think of from rheumatoid arthritis medications. I've even been put on methotrexate, which is a cancer drug. They give you that when you're going through chemotherapy. That one, it kept making me throw up. Literally, it was so thick I could feel it pushing into my body when they injected into me, and that feeling always made me throw up. And then I would be sick for a week afterwards, and then I'd have to go in, 6 days, and then I'd have to go in on the 7th day to get it again. So I'd literally only feel good for 1 day a week. And I kept telling them this, and they kept telling me, no, your cell count is looking really good, and that's what we want, so we'll keep you on it. It's like, but I feel like garbage. I can't even go to school. I can't do anything. All I do is throw up all day. And they're like, yeah, but look at your blood tests. I'm like, this isn't life. I can't live like this. Like, how many more times do I have to throw up on this nice nurse? Yeah, it was an interesting experience for me growing up, for sure. And I'm at this point now, when I hit 18 and I got taken out of the children's hospital system, my doctor finally actually started treating me like a human being with arthritis instead of just an arthritis experiment. And that was really great. She was awesome. She helped me get my medical marijuana license paperwork signed. So I ended up being one of the first and youngest people to get prescribed medical marijuana for rheumatoid arthritis. And I started changing my diet around quite a bit, taking natural supplements. More recently, I've been meditating and doing spiritual health things and subconscious reprogramming work. And between diet and mindset, it's the only medication I need. I don't take any pharmaceutical drugs anymore. I hardly even go to the doctor. I'm supposed to see my rheumatologist every 6 months, and I don't think he minds either. He doesn't even know what to do with me at this point. So
can I inject right there? You do need to see your doctor because of the fact that I'm going to give you some resources that you
I would like to find a doctor who is a little bit more on my same page.
I'm going to give you some resources, but what you're going to need is a trail. You're going to need that paper trail of treatments that you've been through already and what your current condition is, because you can file for a medical exemption. A medical exemption would show up on your passport, and you will regain some of your freedom.
And the funny thing is, this is why I need a new rheumatologist. My whole life, I was exempt from flu shots and all of the other pokes they give you going through elementary school. I grew up in another province. I grew up in Ontario, and all of my medical records are there. My medical file from when I was a child is 9 legal boxes big, if not bigger. That was just how big it was when I saw it when I was 14. So I moved to Vancouver or British Columbia about 10 years ago and got sent to referred to another rheumatologist. He's supposedly one of the best in British Columbia. And it took him several years and me ending up not seeing him at all for years, and then ending up with sepsis for him to realize that I don't take medicines and I'm not going to take medicines. And the only reason I got sepsis was from a fluke ear infection that I don't even know where I picked it up. It just started as an ear infection and got really bad throughout my body. Started seeing my rheumatologist again after that because they forced me to. I couldn't hear or talk or anything, and all of a sudden he was just right in front of me treating me. So he was part of the treatment plan to get rid of the sepsis. So I kind of got stuck with him again. And I've asked him for a medical exemption. His response was, no, I will not be signing that for you. It is not medically relevant. Wrap your head around that one.
I was baffled. I was baffled.
Yeah, and when I told him, how is that possible when I've been exempt from pokes my whole life? And he just said, it's not medically relevant. I will not do it. Don't ask me again. If you need it that badly, talk to your general practitioner. My general practitioner is on leave. I don't know when or if she's coming back. Nobody can or will tell me. And I've been trying to find another medical or family doctor or general practitioner to sign these papers for me, and nobody's taking new patients.
We're losing a lot of good doctors and nurses that do not believe in the mandates. They don't believe in compromising people's health and freedoms and their own. Yep. They won't do the pokeroo either.
Yeah,
they're not dancing to that step.
Yeah,
and so
that's how I lost
their jobs.
Path.
Good people, hardworking people that don't normally try to get around the law in any way, but because they want to protect their own right to make their own decisions for their health, they're being disbarred, fired, and one other thing, if you've got pen and paper, I want to give you two doctors that may help you with natural remedies for some of the issues that you're facing, and not necessarily having to do, but there's
my naturopath is actually, he was one of the best people on my health team because he was actually able to write prescriptions, and at one point he was a medical doctor. So, and he maintained his authority as a medical doctor so that he could still write prescriptions and live in both worlds. But he was very, very into the natural and holistic side of things.
Nicole Aplian, that's Nicole, last name Apelian. She's a PhD. And if you cover the shipping, she will send you a book called The Forager's Guide. And it's all about natural things that a lot of us consider weeds.
Yeah, I love books like that where I did a bunch of research.
She actually was on Survivor, that show on Survivor.
Yeah.
Where she built her own shelter, found her own food, and survived.
Oh, yeah. I used to love watching that.
Right. Sweet. Okay. The other doctor is Dr. Living Good.
What a name.
Livin. That's his name, I swear. Livin.
Because that's his name, I swear.
Amazing.
And him and his wife, he's a doctor, she's a nurse, and they have a natural protocol.
Okay.
And it's they just want you to cover the shipping on their book. It's a natural protocol and diet and exercise routine to help you build up your own immune system, even a compromised immune system.
Sarah, why don't you share with us those 5 supplementations that you took when you went sort of cold turkey on the pharmaceutical drugs for 7 years, was it?
Yeah, so what had happened was after the sepsis, I had just had enough. I didn't want to be on medicine. I didn't want to go that route at all. And I was told, you will need medicine. We have to put you on medicine. This is enough. Like, you now can't move. You're going to be in a wheelchair. You're going to need this medicine. And we're probably going to have to replace your knees and your shoulders next. Like, okay. And they kept insisting that if I didn't do these 3 things, I would not get out of the wheelchair and I would have a horrible life. So, and I was doing myself a disservice by not taking medicine. So I decided that was a crock, and I went home and I did a bunch of research on how to build my immune system naturally, because they had damaged it so much with their antibiotics.
And I think you asked the doctor what, because he said to you, these are what you're going to be taking, and then you said to him, what does that do?
He told me you'll have to be on warfarin, which is a blood thinner, because not only did they OD me on the antibiotics, they also gave me blood clots because the catheter they put in my veins was too big for my vein. So it caused a bunch of blood clots in my arm. And so they said I needed to be on warfarin for a minimum of 9 months. And that may or may not even work to get rid of the blood clots. And I needed to be on, I can't remember the name of the other drug, but it was for helping to, it's what they give AIDS patients when their immune system is like super shot. And they wanted me to be on that for about a year to potentially help me. But they also said for a year, every week, I'll have to go for a blood test to make sure my liver and kidneys aren't failing from these drugs. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to deal with any of that. So I went home. I researched a bunch of the side effects and was like, absolutely not. Then I researched what these 2 drugs do and how to do that naturally and what supplements can do these things naturally. I started taking chaga mushroom, acai berry powder, spirulina powder, raw apple cider vinegar, and colloidal silver. Those things, within 3 weeks, I went back because I was going every 3 weeks for a checkup because I was in such a severe state. He's like, wow, you must be taking the meds. I'm really happy. Thank you so much for following through with the treatment. I'm like, I'm not taking those meds. He's like, well, how did you do this? Your blood test is showing that your immune system is back to where it was before you were hospitalized. And the ultrasound that we did on your arm 3 days ago is showing that you have no clots in your arm anymore. And like they checked my chest, they checked my neck, they checked everywhere it would have been able to travel in that 3-week time. I didn't have any clots anywhere. And they were like, you're not on the medicine? Like, I don't understand. It was like, well, I took these 5 things. Can you write that in my chart? Because that's what I did to fix this problem. And he just sat there and stared at me and looked blankly in my eyes. And I was like, aren't you going to write that down? Are you going to write it down in my chart? He's like, no.
Knowledge. This is hidden knowledge.
He refused to write it in my chart. And I was like, okay. He's like, well, why don't you come back in another 3 weeks? I'm like, well, if my immune system is better than it was before my hospitalization, and even better than my last test when I was good before the sepsis, why do I need to come back in 3 weeks? I'm not coming back here. Mm-hmm. I know now that what I'm doing is good. You've confirmed that. My tests are good. You've read the numbers for me. I know what that means now. I'm going to go home and keep doing what I'm doing. Mm. And he just kind of looked at me really confused, like he didn't know what to do. And I was like, well, if you're not going to write down the thing that helped the issue that I'm here to see you for, I have no reason to be here, because you're obviously not working on my treatment with me. And he just kind of looked at me and was like, well, I'll write an appointment if you want to come. This is when I'll see you next. I'm like, I'm not coming to that, but I'll take your car just in case anything happens. And I did that, and I never saw him again.
What sort of research have you done into natural medicines and remedies that you could share with our viewers?
Well, those are two of my favorite people, but I've done a lot. I mean, I was even brought up to believe that living off of raw, natural fruits and vegetables and not eating so much processed food and, fresh air. Mm-hmm. That's one of your biggest.
If you can call it that anymore.
Right? You've got a point. You definitely have a point.
Breathable air.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and it's harder. It's getting harder and harder. I understand. I don't live in a big city. I live in a smaller town. But for a few years, I did live downtown in a larger city in California that I would feel it when we would have a lot of traffic. I could definitely feel that I couldn't breathe as well when I was, that I can do now, because I can get outside and I can go walk in nature instead of walking in a park that is surrounded by moving vehicles all the time. Mm-hmm. I've got I was born with crippled feet, and I've got some issues with my feet now that I'm older, even though they've fixed them with operations when I was small. Mm-hmm. But I find that doing things like I drink ginger tea, which is good for inflammation. Mm-hmm. Ginger and turmeric. I use it in my cooking. I use it in tea. Mm-hmm. Just staying away from all the processed. If it's in a package and it's got an ingredient list that's 2 paragraphs, it's not good for you.
Mm-hmm. It's just poison in packaging. So,
but the thing is, even
for me anyway, I can't say that for other people, but for me, there's nothing good in those ingredients lists. So,
but there's nothing good in the fruit and veg that they have in there, with the certain fertilizer they grow it with, and they patent it and they spray it and they wax it and they make it look good, and so
then they wrap it in plastic.
And then they wrap it in plastic. Yep. So it's like, what really are you eating? Even if you believe you're eating something that's healthy for you, it's really not. So that's why we have to go to those little markets, those little shops that have their fresh, homegrown fruit and vegetables, because that's the only place you're really going to find fresh fruit and vegetables. So they've even got us in that department when it comes to food and health wise. I think another thing about eating processed foods is, as you become more as you become more connected to your body, you then feel the energy of what you're eating. You see, and that's one thing. I use it as a guide. If you've got an animal that, because people don't believe that animals have emotions, and everything's energy. Everything is energy, right? So when that cow or pig or goat or sheep or whatever is going to the slaughterhouse and they know where they're going, they're not stupid, right? And they see their friends getting murdered in front of them, right? The fear within that animal locks into the meat that you are now digesting, and that literally takes over your body, and you're actually feeling the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the worry of the animal that you're eating.
You also have to realize that even before they're taken to the slaughterhouse, there are a lot of big business farms. Yeah. You know, your larger names, the ones that are the most popular on the shelf, And often they're priced a little cheaper, which they can get away with because they produce so much.
It's mass produced.
So that's how they get us sucked in. We want to save money. We also need convenience and save time. Okay, but they're putting these animals, and it doesn't matter which animal it is, feathered, finned, furred, whatever. They're putting these animals into places. They're raising them up in little confined areas.
They can't even move.
They can't move. They can't get clean. And they're fed things like corn and beans
that are GMO,
and they are GMO, exactly.
Full of hormones,
which means genetically modified, folks. Which is what they're trying to do with us with this pokeroo.
That's it.
Genetically modify us. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I read. I had family that was part of the whole. Does anybody remember Farm Aid? You guys are probably a little too young for that.
I remember that.
That was when a lot of big companies took over a lot of small farms, and they're doing it all over the world now.
Yes.
Bill and Melinda Gates are out there buying up farmland.
Farmland, I heard that. He's got his fucking fingers in everything, isn't he? That bastard.
Amen, brother. You got that right. You were telling the truth.
Well, that's happening all over BC right now. The farmers are protesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And what they're trying to do is to make our food poison to our systems.
Yeah. I watched a really, really interesting thing about GMOs and what it actually does to your guts. And what the thing that they do to change the structure of the plants, what the GMO is it makes the plant produce its own pesticide. So when you're ingesting that, it actually turns your gut lining into that same, because your gut lining is very similar to the structure of a plant and cells in a plant. It literally turns your gut into a pesticide producing factory. And you are turning your natural organ system, your bowels and all of that into a pesticide producing factory, because it changes the cellular structure to start producing, have your organic body start to produce this chemical, basically.
That's what they're doing with the pokeroo right about now. The gene therapy.
We have to start investing in community farms.
Yes.
Find people that have got yards that'll let you do a little gardening by their side. Start growing your own natural herbs and medicines in your windows. If you live in the city, if you've got a window or a rooftop, balcony, there's a lot you can do with microgreens.
I love microgreens.
To boost your immune system, and you can grow them in a little tray.
I keep having a dream where I'm opening a microgreen fridge in my kitchen. I don't know what that means.
Really?
But maybe one day I'll have a microgreen fridge in my kitchen.
I haven't tried it yet for myself, but you can start microgreens in your closet, because they start in the dark.
You can,
And if you space it out so that you're planting a new tray every 3 weeks, you don't run out.
And you always have,
so you'll always have. You start them in the closet, in the dark, and then you bring them out into the light. And within just a couple of weeks, you've got greens that you can cut off and put in a salad, and they're absolutely healthy for you.
Yeah, and it's fresh, raw ingredients too. And when you're eating it right off, when you snip it right off from the root and right off from the plant itself and ingest it, that is the freshest, most live nutrition you could possibly put in your body. And because it's just a baby little sproutling, plants generally produce the hormones that make them grow into big, huge plants. And those are really, really good for us. That's why microgreens are so beneficial to people, just because of what gets produced when they're in that stage and how it affects the human body. So it's very cool what microgreens can do for you. And eating live food is really the best way you can go.
Also, I recommend if you do get organic produce,
Yep.
try to keep some seeds, label them, keep them,
Mm-hmm.
because from what I've seen and what I've heard, it's going to get tougher and tougher to be able to organically take care of ourselves.
I've heard that too. They're trying to turn everything into a GMO.
It's happening right now. Right now.
There's there's been other movements such as things like tiny houses. Look into it.
Tiny houses.
Yeah. Tiny houses on wheels. Those folks have got some good ideas.
Yeah.
Everything from converting buses and bread trucks to having an actual house that you can park somewhere and
I actually watched an episode about tiny houses, and they had a whole, on the top of the tiny house, they had like a little patio set up.
Right.
And they had a huge like little garden, like you said. They actually had a veggie garden on top of the roof of their tiny home, and they could drive around with their veggies growing on top of their house. It's really cool.
It's gonna get really tough.
Where do you think this is all going? Because for our viewers that don't know the agenda and what's really going on around the world and behind closed doors, what do you think their end game is, Laura?
In my humble opinion, we are a people form. And that's a phrase that's used by a lot of different groups.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase.
Where they are actually trying to herd us just like animals, to work to pay their way, to live to pay their way. They want us to be under their control almost entirely.
And that's where AI comes into it, I suppose.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I can give you, they may seem like they're over exaggerated horror stories, but try looking into, have you ever seen the original storyline for Resident Evil?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay, it's a video game, but the original storyline starts out with some government experiments that get out into the public. Gee, does that sound familiar?
I've actually heard a lot of really interesting theories about the Resident Evil timeline and how it correlates to what's actually happening. It's like what Cortez, what you and I were talking about, how they leak things with Star Trek and The Simpsons and stuff like that. I feel like Resident Evil was one of those things as well, where they're trying to feed you information by making it look like a fictional story, but really that's actually what's happening right before your eyes. They're just not telling you the full truth.
The only reason they allow things like that to be shown to us is because it kind of mentally
prepares you.
Yeah.
Desensitizes us to all the other little red flags that have been going on for a long time. You know, I mean,
programming. They know exactly what they're doing.
I believe that there's a certain elite, and they are all and they're not just in my country or your country, they're everywhere. There is no country lines. We're one globe, one planet, one people.
No borders. There's no borders. And if you want to go really deep, they're not even human. What human could blow up cities and with young children in it, vaccinate the whole world knowing what it's doing to people and sleep at night? You can't. They're psychopaths. They have no empathy and they have no compassion. And that is the definition of a psychopath. And that's what we're dealing with, guys. So when people say the government wouldn't do that, no, you wouldn't do that. The
government would and is doing it. It's happening. It's been happening since the 80s.
I don't know if you've seen the headlines, but the government is so guilty of
human trafficking.
Oh yeah, we know. Okay, and
Don't get me started on that
Yeah,
whole thing.
right?
Living
We
in
talk
Canada.
about satanic ritual abuse all night on this, Laura.
I'm not even talking about satanic. I'm talking about just we close our illustrious president, and I'm saying that in a gagging. At that time, Mr. Trump was shutting down our border, and when people couldn't actually prove that that child belonged to them, those children were taken away. They were put in cages then.
Yeah.
And over 2,000 of those children are still not accounted for. They were shipped out all over the United States, and they are still not accounted for. Okay, and now we've got a certain court battle going on. That while all this
spoke about this yesterday, so
medical stuff is being right there in the headlines for you. The medical stuff is right here, all keeping your vision blocked. Hello. It's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
It's a big smoke screen, and it's a court battle going on. They can name names of people that are absolutely disgusting. Because if you're hurting a child, you are totally disgusting.
It's awful.
This is it. It's whether it's child trafficking, sex trafficking, pedophilia, satanic ritual abuse, it all boils down into that
human
one
experimentation,
death occult. And they're just an occult, and all they want to do is wreak havoc, cause death, trauma, destruction, because at the core of all of this, these people are satanic.
Yes.
Or whatever God they worship is not the God that we supposedly worship, if you get what I'm trying to say. So we're living in an inverted world. And that's how we know they are worshiping a certain God, because they invert everything. So that's when we have to sort of question the official narrative of whatever we are listening to, wherever that's coming from, the news or anyone.
No, I think there's two things important to everyone right now. One is research. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Don't take my word for anything I've said.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Or Sarah's, or yours, Cortez. Don't take our word for it.
Exactly.
But we're going to give you places to look, places that we've looked. And those places are going to give you places to look. Be informed while you still have the ability to get in here with the internet and be informed.
That's it.
But also remember something very important to your own health, physical, mental, and spiritual health. Also remember, we are all one.
Yeah.
We need to keep fear from being the basis that we live by.
Yeah.
If you do anything, do it out of love. Don't hate. Don't even hate these people that are causing our miseries. Don't hate them.
Feel sorry for them, because if you're going to generate that hate feeling, they're going to feed off that.
Yeah.
Pray that they receive the guidance they need to return to humanity.
Yeah.
Send love that way. Send love to each and every person that's being affected by this.
Love will kill them.
That's it.
They can't survive in the vibration.
When you pray and or meditate, bring the love up from the earth, bring it up into your body, and then just make a bigger and bigger and bigger ball. Just imagine you would engulf the apartment building or house that you live in, your neighborhood, and just expand that ball into a ball of love. Because there's one thing that fear cannot conquer. That's love.
100%, Laura.